I mean, New Year's resolutions, they're just bound to fail.
Yes.
That's just kind of how it goes. I still love the idea of setting goals and setting a focus for your self-improvement, but just taking kind of a different approach to it. I've implemented a similar concept that I call theming. Self-improvement is a difficult thing, especially when life gets busy and you're just kind of caught up in the day-to-day.
And a lot of people thinking it's cheesy, like self-help books,
Yeah.
like they get a bad rap sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I think you can definitely take a more negative mindset towards it. But no, it all comes back to mindset, like you said, pillar number 5, intention. You see it every year at New Year's. The New Year's resolution is the peak, the top of it of I'm finally going to make this change and focus on this in my life. And it's also probably the number one thing that gives self-improvement a negative rap because
I would agree with that 100%.
I mean, New Year's resolutions, they're just bound to fail.
Yes.
That's just kind of how it goes. I still love the idea of setting goals and setting a focus for your self-improvement, but just taking kind of a different approach to it. And the interesting thing is we've had this conversation before. I remember sitting and listening to your intention episode, and you talked about your one word for life. And I'm sitting here thinking the mindset that I use for self-improvement is something very similar, but we've come to it from 2 very different ways. Yours was from the book, right? It's
one word for your year. It's actually, the book is one word. Mm-hmm. And they talk about one word for the year, but then that led to me like, not only having a word for a year, but like, why wouldn't I have a word for my life?
Right. And setting that intention setting the intention for your goals for self-improvement with a word.
Yeah.
And I was listening to that thinking, I've implemented a similar concept that I call theming, which is a similar thing of using a word to set my focus around what it is I want to self-improve on. Okay. And setting that theme for a certain period of time. I've heard it talked about where people set a theme for their year, similar to like how you set a word for your year or for a month. For me, I like to do a theme for a season. So I do it based on the change of the seasons of setting a word. Many different approaches to this, but say, for a winter, I want to focus on my presence, be more present and in the moment. The winter of presence, spring of composure, summer of strength.
I love that for so many different reasons. I mean, one, like if you just look at it on a organizational standpoint, if you just say like, I'm going to change up my theme for my life, and you don't have like a time frame set to that, it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
Whereas if like, hey, the change in the season, what's my theme going to be here now? That's awesome. So do you set that like all 4 of those like a year ahead of time? Do you think of that, or how does that work?
No, it's interesting how it comes about is usually during the previous season I'm focusing on whatever it is that season is focused on, but usually there's a word or there's something in my life that I can think about coming up for next season of like, this is something that I know I want to focus on. And like I said, doing it for the seasons, for me, this is the perfect time period. It's basically quarterly. I've got 3 months of time where I set the intention on self-improvement in one area of my life. And just going back to that goal setting and kind of comparing that to a New Year's resolution, why is this more powerful? For me, it's like it sets a more holistic goal than just, say it's summer of health, rather than this summer I want to lose 10 pounds.
Yeah, I love that.
When you set the hard goal, which hard goals are good as well, but if you set that and you fail, well, then all of a sudden you drop back down, you fall off the health train entirely, or you're watching your weight and, oh no, it went up here and I'm failing to my goal.
Yeah.
With a theme or with a word for life and setting that intention that way, you build a more holistic approach. So you say health is going to be my focus. For me, what this does is it sets that theme as a lens that I look at the world through. So every decision I get to look at through that lens for that period of time, for that 3 months, it's like, okay, I'm going to come to a decision of, am I going to go home and make lunch today, or am I going to stop at the McDonald's or something like that? At least if I have that theme in mind, and this is what's in mind for that period, it's, oh no, this is the season of health. That's a decision I'm going to try to lean my way towards health. And it kind of just sets up your life in that way and pushes you in the right direction.
I mean, that makes so much sense. And that is what my one word for the year does for me as well. But I will admit that the one word for the year does start to lose power like 6 months in. And then there's many times where I'm like, okay, well, I feel like I've kind of conquered that now, or I've got a really good control over it. And I kind of want to change it up, but I never do because it's my word for the year. So I really love this concept.
Yeah. And really you can find the time frame that fits for you, and there's no hard rule around this. I think the most powerful tool out of all of this is using those, I guess I would say, softer goals, setting a word of intention for a time period in your life. I think that's the biggest thing. The time frame you kind of adjust to what works best for you. Again, there are a couple of reasons of why I do that. But like you said, the hardest thing with self-improvement in general, and the hardest thing with setting goals like this, is keeping top of mind.
Yeah.
So for me, it's helpful to shorten that time period a little bit to seasons like I do. But also, I implement all sorts of practices to try to keep this top of mind. I know you do similar
That's exactly
things.
what I was just going to ask, what you do for that.
Yeah. And this gives a little bit more practicality to it, because you could say, I mean, just like a New Year's resolution is you say at the outset, but then if you never think about it again until it's the end of whatever period you decided and then you failed, well, then it wasn't making any realistic change. So it's something that needs to be top of mind on a daily basis.
Yes.
For me, there's a couple different things that I do. Journaling is the biggest one. And I'll talk about this a little bit more later too, but journaling being a powerful thing where at the very beginning of my theme, I set out and I write out the outset of what does this word mean for me? What is the meaning of this theme?
Okay.
And I kind of write out paragraphs of this is what it is. This is what I'm trying to do. I then lay out some bullet points of not the hard goals of year of health, I'm going to work out X times. It's more of if I'm practicing and succeeding in this theme, what does that look like? Here's some practical things of what that looks like. That looks like choosing making my own meals at home rather than going out to eat as more often than not. Means working out a couple times more a week, setting what does this actually look like? So I set that intention from the very beginning. And for me, journaling, writing it down, getting it somewhere where I can look back on it is super powerful. And then to tie that in, so that's from the beginning, but then at the end of every day, I journal to reflect on, and part of my journaling practice, which is a larger thing, but always at the start is, how was X today? Not did you succeed, did you fail, how was health today? How was composure today? And just a reflection at the end of the day of, man, here's times where I could have been a little bit better. Here's opportunities that I could have improved. Here's where I was really good and I did these things. Keeping that as something where I know at the end of the day I'm going to reflect on, it puts it in mind during the day too. And then at the end of the theme, at the end of the season for me, I write up a reflection on how did the theme go? What change did you see? How do you feel different? I've had some themes, some seasons where I look back and I'm like, I am a fairly significantly different person from the beginning of the theme.
That's awesome.
I've had times where I was like, you know what? I think this is something that I need to get back to on at a different time. But I think those journaling practices for me are super powerful as a way to keep it top of mind just on a daily basis and to set that intention from the very beginning. But I'm sure you've talked about some of the things that you do to keep your word in mind as well.
Yeah, I do. And I can say, like, you guys are probably starting to see why I said in the intro that Colton takes things to the next level. So, I've never journaled in my life. And like just hearing you describe that, it gives me goosebumps, honestly. And I can see like how incredibly powerful that would be when it's that top of mind. Like top of mind for me is a sticky note taped to my mirror with my word.
Hey, it's whatever helps for you, man. Yeah.
Well, this is next level, and it is powerful.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's why it's like a good, like we make a great team because we have a good balance. Like we're both on the same page, but yet at the same time, like we're also in different seasons of life. So as a parent, when I think about the journaling, I'm like, that sounds amazing. And then I start thinking about how am I going to fit that in? Like, when are my kids going to let me journal? And I could do it. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to attempt to. But for other people that are thinking that is where more of a simplified approach, which can still be very effective. Like, I am a huge fan of, I always say, sticky notes everywhere.
Yeah.
So you literally buy $1 sticky notes at the dollar store, and you just write your word on that. That goes on your mirror, goes on your fridge, it goes on the dashboard of your car, wherever you're going to see it on a daily basis. And then for me, I've got a vision board. I always print out a beautiful picture of my one word. I have it as a theme on my phone many years. Yep. And so there's all kinds of things that you can do, but you just want to put it in places that you're going to see it every single day. But absolutely, if you can then take that to the next level, even if it's not a daily journal, but getting in the practice of journaling, I think that's absolutely enormous.
For sure. And there's no one size fits all, like you said.
Yeah.
I'm in a very different stage of my life. I have more time for these things. But to just get the little kick in your mind in the middle of the day when you're stuck in the day-to-day, you just don't focus on the things that you set as the intention for, a month ago, whatever it is, because you're locked in, and there's so many things, there's so many fires burning during the day. So just have those little reminders. It's a sticky note. Maybe it's a reminder on your phone that hits your phone every day at a certain time. Yeah. And all that does, like I said, for me, it just reminds me that, hey, there's this lens that I'm supposed to be looking at my life through right now. Remind yourself of that, and then when you're faced with the decision that is a decision point along that theme, it's, man, can I take one step in the right direction here? Yeah. And I really think that that's what self-improvement needs to be, and it's all about, is just one step at a time. Like you said, success is simple habits performed regularly over time. Yeah. It's just those simple things. And that's where self-improvement needs to come in, and that's where this whole theming concept, I think, what it's all about, just pushing the needle in the right direction, right? And then setting up different systems in your life to make it more top of mind and fit in your life.
Thank you for listening to the Foundational Health Podcast. As always, if you would like to learn more about making health your hobby, visit our website at foundationalhealth365.com and follow me on Facebook at Kevin Schultz, DC, Foundational Health.